Shri Mustafa. Availability of credit information is enabling far-reaching changes in the broader credit infrastructure in India and is supporting the evolution of credit risk management across commercial and retail lending. I would now request Shri M.V. Nair, Chairman, Transmunicipal, to address us on leveraging data analytics for MSME lending.
Thank you very much, Ashla. Mr. N.S. Vishwanathan, Deputy Governor, Mr. Mustafa, CMD, SIDBI, Mr. Satish Pillai. Ladies and gentlemen, let me extend a warm welcome to you for this very unique initiative that jointly TransUnion and SIDBI is here to sort of present launching of MSME report. So, first of all, let me thank Mr. Mustafa for making this possible. I think there's a lot of activity happening in SIDBI, and they are the real people who should actually drive, and for giving us an opportunity to work with SIDBI in this whole initiative. I think I'll make a few points. The first point, whether MSME is the new retail. That's the question I want to ask. For me, it appears MSME is the new retail. Why? Because one, it has a potential for high growth. Number two, the data indicates the delinquency is lower. Number three, MSME could be a very long-term play. Next 10 years, it appears, we have a clear, all bankers, all lenders, a clear play there. What does it benefit? All of us know it's much debated. MSME's contribution to the economy is far, far higher. Any sector for that matter, if you look at it. And as we increase our lending to the MSME sector, the GDP itself can expand, the employment generation can substantially expand. What is there for lenders? My reading is next 10 years, as we engage with MSME for larger lending, the quality of balance sheet of lenders itself may undergo a positive change. That is where the MSME Pulse report gives a lot of insight. I would request you to actually spend some time to go through this report. It gives insight into what's happening. We also make few recommendations to the policymakers and the regulators to enable good decision making by the lenders. Let me slightly pick up well on MSME's new retail. When you look back in the last 10 years, 2008 to 2018, 2018 for retail borrowers, the consumer experience today is much different than what it was in 2008. It must have been driven by multiple things, but I should give full credit to the lenders. The innovative approach you adopted because you had a lot of data. And we also take full credit for supporting with the lenders to give insight into the retail credit. Today, if someone walks into a dealer's shop and buys a car and moves out in 10 minutes, it was not possible in 2008. A pre-approved credit is not possible in 2008. The experience has been far different than what was in 2008 to 2018. I had a very pleasant experience last month when I was in San Francisco. I was invited to be on the panel. The audience were large fund houses, large insurance companies, and Dr. Raghuram Rajan was giving the keynote address, primarily showcasing India as a better destination. He shared one experience. He said in the World Economic Conference, he was having a discussion with Mr. Sanjeev Bajaj, who said, I have built 1 lakh crore company based on the data, analytics, and support of Civil. It was, for me sitting there was a great, pleasant experience. Having said that, 2-3 years back, one of the chairman of a private sector bank did mention there's not only that the retail side, the delinquency has substantially come down because of the data, but also we started getting those customers who come back and then pay to us which we had written off earlier. I think it's most of your experience that is. So today when you look back, those who focused on the retail lending, market is rewarded. The company's plant valuations is primarily retail companies. So now let's look at how MSME can replicate the similar experience for the lenders. And all of us know MSME is the lifeblood of the economy. And when you look at the numbers, there are 50 million MSME in the country. 5 million are finance. That's what the data we have. 5 million. That means only 10% of finance. 90% of the white space where we can actually play. The total credit is 11.7 lakh crore to this sector. And micro, as Mr. Mustafa rightly mentioned, is growing over 20%. It's almost 20% from less than 10 lakhs. Even if you take just 20% growth, which is possible, distinctly possible, next 10 years, the loan book size should be somewhere around 60 to 70 lakh crore. That is the size of an opportunity that is available for us in next 10 years. So, next point that I will make is the under-penetration in SME credit could be two ways. One is there is a demand side, one is supply side. On the demand side, in the past, they were primarily not getting into formal financing. We all know they were more in the informal side. They were not preparing the books. They're very scared of, whatever reason it is. But last few years, things have substantially changed. The digital footprint is available, the tax footprint or the merchant acquisition side, the footprint, post GST. Clearly, the footprints available about most of the MSMEs. So that will facilitate proper decision making by the lenders. So we have the numbers, Mr. Mustafa rightly mentioned. How many of them are the new to credit customers? In the second quarter of 2017, second half year, that's the half year of 2017, 4 lakh new customers have been added. Whereas first quarter of 2016, it was 2.7 lakhs. That means the very movement, because of the data, because of the risk, the perception risk coming down, there is a tendency to finance to the new to credit customers. On the supply side, for the bankers, primarily our entire book was either retail or the large corporates. In the large corporate side, all of us know there won't be much of a play for us for quite some time to come for two reasons. One is better the rated companies will go to the bond market. The other companies, we don't want to lend. The working capital may be the primary opportunity. Retail will continue to grow. That's what the buyback report indicates. Whereas SME could be a big opportunity from the demand side also to grow. So, when you look at the NPA side itself, 10 lakh to 5 crores under the commercial lending side has the lowest NPA. So, it's a profitable business for the bankers to do. So, supply side also, I personally feel there's a great opportunity. Now, one other point I want to make is, from this study, from this report, we are making 4 recommendations to the policymakers and to the regulator. The first, this study highlights the significant scope that exists to increase access to credit for MSMEs while reducing the cost of credit to the borrower and increasing the profitability for the lenders. This is possible through astute and extensive usage of data analytics, not just for underwriting, but also for formulating policy actions. It builds the case for lenders and credit bureaus to be provided access to alternate data such as GST, EPFO, and utility bill payment information, as this will provide critical risk assessment inputs for the new to credit MSME customers and enhance the overall risk assessment quality of the MSMEs. The first recommendation this report makes. Second, MSME Pulse indicates that MSMEs can improve access to finance in the form of credit opportunities by leveraging trade receivables electronic discounting system To enable this, regulatory approval is required for TRADS to access credit bureau data and submission of trade finance data for underwriting purposes. Third, yet another crucial recommendation of this report is for regulators to form enabling policies for securitization of MSME exposures with real-time risk assessment facilitated by Credit Bureau. MSME with the live credit exposure are in excess of 5 million, with majority of them having exposures below 5 crore and are usually not rated by credit rating agencies. Utilizing bureau data to assess the risk of MSME portfolio for securitization will improve the objectivity and transparency of the risk assessment process. And the fourth and the final recommendation we make is, most importantly, the report advocates strong policy incentives for geographical credit expansion and inclusion. Few states like UP, Bihar, Odisha, Madhya Pradesh have a substantial base of MSME entities but have significantly lagged behind in terms of credit growth and penetration. Special focused credit clusters need to be created to improve credit flow in these states along with strong policy incentives. This will increase MSME lending penetration in these states and provide a significant push to the economic output and employment opportunities. With this, let me once again make a mention, next 10 years, I'm sure, and let us all work together to make MSME as a new retail. All the best. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mustafa and Mr. Nair have set the stage for the most awaited event of the day, the launch of MSME Pulse, a joint initiative by SIPPI and Chansivan Civil. May I request Sri Vishwanathan to unveil the report and present it to us and the industry. Request if all the dignitaries could stand up for a photo opportunity. We take a picture. I would now request Mr. Deep Mukherjee, Chief Product Officer, Chansivan Civil, to take us to the key findings of MSME Pulse.
Respected dignitaries, industry friends and colleagues, I'll take this opportunity from the next 10 minutes to take you out to the key findings of the MSME Pulse report. So certain things that Mr. Nair has mentioned and before that Mr. Mustafa. When we look at the overall credit growth, I think there has been a lot of news that the overall credit growth has been somewhat lukewarm in the last 12 to 18 months. But when you sort of deep dive into the data, you would see that companies with aggregated credit exposure below 1 crore, which we term as the micro segment. For the last 2 years, they have been growing at the credit growth in that segment has been 20%. No one was expecting a 20% growth in any segment. And the overall number was a lukewarm 3.2%. But there is a segment which has grown at 20%. SME, which we club as a segment with aggregated credit exposure of 1 crore to 25 crore, has grown at 9%. You see as we move up the exposure side, you see that the credit growth has been very, very muted to the extent the large segment which is companies with aggregated exposure of 100 crore and above, has grown at only 0.5%. Obviously, it's not difficult to understand the reason for that. For large corporates, it's stuck with issues of NPA recovery, low capex, not to mention possible bouts of risk aversion from the bankers. On the contrary, a lot of the small companies which are associated to the core Indian consumption story, which supplies our day-to-day needs, they have been thriving quite well despite the overall sentiment not being so great. And we see that very, very clearly in the data. This is the NPA rates. We would see that as the ticket size reduces or the aggregated exposure size reduces, the delinquency rates are also lower. You see that this is the large corporates with aggregated exposure of over 100 crores. We find that in December 2015 it was 7.9% NPA. And coincidentally with the launch of AQR, it has kept on rising and currently it is at 16.9% NPA level. Mid, which is a segment with aggregate exposure between 25 crore and 100 crore. These mid companies tend to be tag 1, tag 2 suppliers of large corporates. They do get affected by the payment cycles. Some of them have extended receivable days associated with large corporates and their cash flows are under stress. We see that is getting also reflected in their NPA rates and they have shot up from again around 7.98% to 16.9%. That's where the beauty of the MSME segment comes to, which is a consumption-driven play more often than not. Even during the lowest portion of the cycle, we see that the credit has not per se deteriorated significantly. It has moved from 7.9 to 8.8% for the micro segment. For SME segment, it has moved from 9.8 to 11.2. We do not see a structural deterioration of credit. Moving more into greater details into the segment of our interest, which is below 10 crore exposure, which is also the segment which SIDBI focuses on. We find the same story. The smallest companies, which we club as very small, whose aggregated exposure is below 10 lakh, extreme left hand side, they have grown at 31.9%. That's a growth rate which is higher than also retail. If you look at micro, which is 10 lakh to micro 1, which is we have split this micro into 10 lakh to 50 lakh bucket and 50 lakh to 1 crore, and we see that they have shown growth rates of 17%, 15.6%. So clearly showing that there is a very significant demand at the bottom of the corporate pyramid. If we go upwards, we see that the growth rates are sort of tapering off. Again, the smaller the company, the less dependent it is on large companies or for that matter heavy duty projects, more dependent on day-to-day consumption. The larger the company, more closer it is integrated to the overall big ticket projects, etc. And you will see that not only their credit growth has tapered off, but also their NPA rates are higher. This is also something that Mr. Nair has pointed out. NTC, new to credit additions. New to credit additions at some time back, it used to be below 5% of the new accounts opened used to be new to credit in MSME. In 2015, it was 7.2%, now it is 9.7, close to 10%. 1 in 10 credit that is underwritten is new to credit in commercial. So there is a huge amount of activity which, when you look at the overall GDP number, it flows below the radar. But once you take a deep dive into the data, you clearly see that where the action is. This is, I think there has been a lot of debate, ongoing debate on GST demonetization. Has it recovered? Has it not recovered? I think quite a long time back someone said every person is welcome to his or her opinion, but without data you are just another person with an opinion. The data suggests that, so this is the chart is to be read as this. The credit exposure at December 2015, we have benchmarked it or indexed it as 1. And the below 10 crore segment, we have split it between 10 lakh to 50 lakh, 50 lakh to 1 crore, 1 crore to 5 crore, and 5 crore to 10 crore. This is the credit growth. We find that during GS implementation of demonetization, there was significant reduction of credit exposure.
Done like that.
This is not difficult to understand because of over